In the cold dawn of a San Francisco morning, a familiar silhouette emerges from the swirling fog. Two colossal towers rise like sentinels from the churning waters below, supporting impossibly slender cables that dance with the Pacific winds. The Golden Gate Bridge, its burnt orange frame standing defiant against the raw forces of nature that once made this mile-wide strait impassable. But the bridge should not exist. The waters here plunge over 300 feet deep, swept by currents reaching 7 knots, strong enough to drag a diver to within minutes. Unpredictable gales can exceed hurricane force. The very earth itself threatens to shake apart any human creation, with the San Andreas Fault lurking just offshore. When city engineer Michael O'Shaughnessy proposed spanning the Golden Gate in 1919, America's top bridge builders scoffed. Technically impossible, they declared. Others estimated costs exceeding $100 million, astronomical in that era. Yet in a cruel twist of timing, San Francisco's ambitious dream collided with the Great Depression, the worst economic collapse in American history. As unemployment soared to 25%, the idea of building the world's longest suspension bridge seemed like madness. Still, against all reason, construction crews began diving pylons into the treacherous strait in January 1933. Men balanced on narrow beams hundreds of feet above the water, their only protection a primitive safety net. Each day brought the risk of plummeting into the frigid Pacific, yet thousands competed desperately for these dangerous jobs. How could this architectural masterpiece emerge from America's darkest economic hour? And how could they build it for less than 1/3 the predicted cost, ahead of schedule, and in one of the most hostile environments on Earth? San Francisco in the 1920s was a city trapped by water. The mile-wide Golden Gate Strait formed a natural barrier to the north, with ferries as the only link. For a city with imperial ambitions, this watery bottleneck was a stranglehold on growth. Into this impasse stepped Joseph Strauss. Standing just 5 feet tall, his vision reached higher than anyone had dared imagine. In 1921, he unveiled sketches for a bridge over a mile long, anchored in waters deeper than any bridge foundation in history. While other experts estimated costs of upwards of $100 million, Strauss made a bold counterclaim. He could build it for just $25 million. Powerful interests aligned against him. The Southern Pacific Railroad, which controlled the lucrative ferry monopoly, deployed considerable political muscle to block the project. The Sierra Club and photographer Ansel Adams fought to preserve the strait's natural beauty. Military planners feared the bridge could hinder naval operations. Yet in November 1930, in an extraordinary act of faith, voters in 6 counties approved a $35 million bond issue, putting up their home and farms as collateral. But the depression deepened. No one would buy the bonds. Salvation came from banker A.P. Giannini, who declared, "We'll take the bonds, San Francisco needs the bridge." With one stroke, he purchased $6 million worth, enough to jumpstart construction without a penny of federal money. Word spread quickly, the Golden Gate Bridge was hiring. Thousands of desperate men lined up, competing for the chance to earn just $4 a day in the most dangerous construction job ever attempted. Against all odds, in the darkest hour of the Depression, one of humanity's most ambitious engineering projects was underway. The Golden Gate Strait is in nature its most unforgiving form. The water plunges more than 300 feet deep, with currents strong enough to sweep a man out to sea in minutes. Twice daily, tides force billions of gallons through this narrow channel, a liquid battering ram against any human intrusion. The battle began beneath the waves. Divers worked blind in freezing pitch-black waters, feeling their way across the seabed. In pneumatic caissons, pressurized underwater chambers, men evacuated the seafloor to reach the bedrock. Many suffer in the agonizing bends despite 2 short-hour shifts. Above water, San Francisco's infamous fog presented its own deadly hazards. In August 1933, a freight vessel, disoriented in dense fog, plowed into the construction trestle, destroying 400 feet of work. Months later, winter storms smashed another 800 feet to splinters. Each setback threatened the entire project. The building's mathematical salvation came from Charles Ellis, a brilliant engineer Strauss had hired. Working marathon shifts, Ellis performed thousands of complex calculations by hand, proving a mile-long span could withstand the strait's fierce forces. His insight was revolutionary. The bridge must be flexible, rigid enough to support tremendous weight, yet supple enough to sway with the Pacific gales. Strauss later fired Ellis, erasing his name from the official record, but his calculations endured. By June 1935, the tower stood 446 feet above water, taller than any structure in San Francisco. Workers balanced on beams barely wider than their feet, with nothing below but fog and ocean. A single misstep meant certain death. Then came the mesmerizing aerial ballet of cable swinging. Hour after hour, day after day, thin strands of steel wire were carried across the void. In total, over 80,000 miles of wire would be used, enough to circle the Earth 3 times. By mid-1936, both towers stood complete, connected by the swooping arc of the main cables, impossibly tall orange sentinels rising from the mist, defying gravity with their slender grace. The impossible was becoming possible, one rivet at a time. In the 1930s, death was considered an inevitable cost of building great structures. The grim calculus was simple: one worker would die for every $1 million spent. By this math, the Golden Gate Bridge should have claimed 35 lives, but Joseph Strauss possessed a radical belief for his era. Worker lives could and should be protected. He mandated that every person wear a protective helmet, creating America's first official hard hat area. He installed special goggles, respirator masks, and an on-site hospital with doctors on standby. His most famous innovation was a massive safety net, suspended 60 feet below the roadway at a cost of $130,000, over $2.5 million in today's money. It was an unprecedented investment in worker safety. The net soon proved its worth, catching 19 falling workers who formed what had become known as the Halfway to Hell Club. Each survived the sickening drop, later described a profound relief of feeling the net's catch instead of the fatal plunge. But on February 17, 1937, with the bridge tantalizingly close to completion, catastrophe struck. A scaffold beneath the roadway suddenly collapsed, carrying a dozen men toward the safety net. Unlike a single falling worker, the scaffold weighed tons. As it hit the net, the manila ropes tore away from their moorings. 10 men plunged 220 feet to their deaths in the icy waters below. The disaster cast a pall over the project, but work continued. Despite the tragedy, the Golden Gate Bridge revolutionized construction safety. Hard hats, safety nets, and harnesses became standard nationwide. Today's zero fatality standard for major projects was first glimpsed here, a human achievement as significant as the engineering triumph itself. Dawn broke over San Francisco on May 27, 1937, revealing the completed bridge spanning shore to shore. 200,000 people, nearly half the city's population, came to walk across their new bridge on Pedestrian Day. They felt it gently giving with each step, as if breathing, suspended between heaven and earth. The next day, President Roosevelt pressed the telegraph key in the White House, officially opening the bridge to traffic. Every bell, horn, and siren in San Francisco sounded at once. The age of ferries was over. The Golden Gate Bridge was open to the world, ahead of schedule and under budget at just $35 million. Much of the bridge's iconic status stems from the architect Ivan Morrow's inspired choice of international orange paint instead of the Navy's preferred black with yellow stripes. Its vermilion glow against the blue sky, its towers emerging from white fog, these became the most recognizable images in the world. Hollywood embraced it as a visual shorthand for San Francisco. Artists who once opposed it as an intrusion on nature came to celebrate it as a subject. When California chose a single image to represent the entire state on its commemorative quarter, it selected the Golden Gate Bridge, a structure that had transcended its physical form to become a symbol of California itself. Yet the bridge's story includes darkness. Over 1,700 suicides and continuous evolution. A stainless steel safety net now prevents jumpers, seismic retrofits protect against earthquakes, a movable barrier reconfigures lanes for rush hour. The bridge is never truly finished, but constantly adapting. In 1987, during the 50th anniversary, 300,000 people stood on the span simultaneously, so many that their weight actually flattened the bridge's arch. The towers moved inches inwards. It was an inadvertent stress test no engineer would have dared conduct. The Golden Gate Bridge bent, but did not break, engineered in the 1930s to handle loads that wouldn't be tested until generations later. For many, the Golden Gate Bridge is merely a backdrop for a vacation photo or taken for granted commute. But for those who understand what went into building it and what goes into preserving it, the bridge remains what it always was, a testament to human audacity. It arose from America's darkest economic hour when dreams seemed foolish luxuries. It emerged from waters once deemed unbridgeable in conditions that defied construction. It withstood opposition from nature, experts, and vested interests. What Strauss, Ellis, and their team accomplished remains remarkable even by modern standards. With hand calculations instead of computers, with rivets instead of wielding, with primitive materials instead of advanced alloys, they created a structure that has stood against the Pacific's fury for nearly a century. For new generations, the impossibility of the Golden Gate Bridge has faded. What was once deemed beyond human capability is now accepted without question. Its existence seems inevitable, as though it had always been there. As the Golden Gate Bridge stretches into the fog, its endpoint obscured but its direction clear. It offers a final lesson. The path forward isn't always visible. The destination may be shrouded, but with calculation, courage, and conviction, we can build our way into the unknown. The impossible span, conceived by dreamers, calculated by geniuses, built by the brave, stands not just as a way across water, but as a bridge between what is and what could be. Hey guys, thanks for watching. If you liked the video and would like to support the channel, please like and subscribe. That stuff really helps the channel out. And if you have a friend that you think would also like this video, please feel free to send it their way. If you have any video topics you'd like us to cover in the future, feel free to drop them in the comments below. Thanks again for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.